you for coming back to my channel for another video. Today I'm going to be building upon the last video in this series, I guess we can call it. What it is a class I'm teaching at Johns Hopkins titled Meanings to Being, Using Reading and Writing as Tools to Author the Self. So today's video is going to be all about how to complete the questions that I pose to you, that I'll pose to you over the course of the 6 weeks to come, and how you can best answer them, and more generally, how I think writing can be good for your brain. Let's dive in. So the last video was an introduction to the course. I tried to give you some idea of my motivations for the course's assignments and why I think, generally speaking, writing can be of serious value to you beyond the classroom, beyond an academic environment. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the weekly writing assignments. I'm going to give you some tips for how I think you can maximize their utility, and maximizing their utility in this case means that by the end of this course you'll have a document that is basically a personalized map that you can use to navigate your present circumstances and create the closest thing possible to your ideal future. So basically, you're going to use writing to build a detailed life plan that will extend at least 5 years into the future. Doing this will increase the probability that things will go your way, that they'll turn out as you actually want them to. Now, how's it going to do that? With this plan, you're essentially stating outright what exactly it is that you want. And I don't think enough can be said about the relative importance of asking for what you want. Maybe that sounds silly, but when we're thinking about it in the context of how we want our lives to turn out, I think the astounding importance of being willing to kind of sound silly and ask yourself what exactly you want, I think the importance becomes much clearer. These writing assignments are your way of objectively negotiating with your future. And if you follow along with me, you'll be using the written word to give form to your ideal future. Doing that is going to be the kind of thing that enriches your life, and it's at the same time that it's doing that, it's also going to be developing your ability to clearly articulate yourself. But beyond that, I hope that this video will give you some idea of how the act of writing can help you in the short term as well as the long term by coherently connecting your present circumstances and your goals for the present with your future, and more specifically your goals for the future. Without further ado, let's really dive into this thing. Right off the bat, let's talk about how you should answer the weekly writing assignments. Again, the goal of these writing assignments is to help you incrementally create a picture of your ideal future. It's a way of outlining what you want. I know listening to me and following through on the prompts isn't exactly exciting, but if you do decide to take my word and you treat the assignment seriously, I genuinely believe that someday you'll look back and be glad you did. And that's really as good of a sales pitch as I can give you. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe that won't end up being the case, but I'm trying to make it the case. I'm trying to use what thousands of hours of practicing writing have taught me. I'm trying to take that knowledge and give the most useful parts to you so that you have a way of developing yourself during this class, but also in the years beyond when you're not going to class every day and instead it's a job. I want you to still be able to have some skill to rely upon that's going to offer you the opportunity to continue growing personally and to continue developing yourself. That's something that I think is so great about writing, is that it does offer us that unique opportunity. But what I'm trying to prepare you for right now is more so the mindset that I think might best help you to optimize the time you'll spend working through these questions. I'm not going to tell you how you should answer them. These grandiose life questions, it's not for me necessarily to say one way or the other how I think you should go about answering them. What I'm going to try to do instead is give you some idea of the headspace that's going to be most helpful for you, not only when it comes to answering the questions themselves, but also to applying the plans you lay out. And the assigned readings are also meant to, kind of work in tandem with this idea. the writing aspect of the course and the reading aspect are two layers, they're two sides of the same coin. So when it comes to answering the questions for this course, you should first and foremost answer them honestly without, fear of exaggerating your potential. One of the great things about writing, in my opinion, is its privacy. And because of its privacy, there's also absolutely no reason to sell yourself short. You're not going to be embarrassing yourself in front of someone else by describing your dreams for the future. So when you're asked to outline your ideal future 5 years from now, don't hold back. Really put in the time to getting on the page what you want it to look like. There is a serious benefit, in my opinion, to fearlessly giving form to your hopes and your dreams, and that includes your ideal future. And you're cheating yourself by lowering the expectations. Being honest in how you answer these questions is going to bring you closer to actualizing your full potential. Again, that's the way that I've kind of tried to organize this course. When you imagine what could be, you have to always do it honestly, whether you're imagining your ideal future or its polar opposite. So next, when you're answering the questions, consider what is meaningful, not what is expedient, not what is fleeting. Or maybe in fewer words, don't lie to yourself about what's actually meaningful and what's actually worth having. Our first reading is going to be Man's Search for Meaning, and I've assigned this book because I think it does an incredible job of drilling to the core of the human soul. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and one of the values of reading this book, in my opinion, is that he describes what exactly sustained his spirit while he was in Auschwitz. And, he also kind of goes into greater detail about his psychological findings, let's call them. And I think it's worth mentioning now that Frankl was a psychoanalyst before he was sent to a concentration camp. So he processed his day-to-day experiences through a psychological lens. Frankl's findings can be applied to everyday life with the goal of not necessarily minimizing suffering, but instead to create a possible set of circumstances or an ideal future, let's call it for the sake of our course, that's meaningful enough to someday sustain you through a tragedy. And what is most important in life, which is to say, what is, again, enough to sustain you through seemingly unconquerable tragedy and suffering, that this book will teach you that. Really what I'm trying to say is consider what Viktor Frankl's, we'll call it a hierarchy of meaning, might have looked like, and don't forget about it as you're writing. Try to use some of the ideas that he puts forward to better understand the implications of what exactly it is that you're asking for. Next up, you should answer the questions with the hope of kind of towing the line between being humble and being prideful. Remember how I said earlier in the video, don't sell yourself short? I guess kind of in the same vein, don't sell yourself long, for lack of a better word. And maybe it seems like I'm going back on my word, but I don't exactly think so. I think you can build a plan to give form to your ideal future, but the construction of that plan depends upon your honesty. And honesty cuts both ways, both positively and negatively. The reality is you are capable of significantly more, but also significantly less than you may think you are at any given moment. And the possibility of kind of oscillating between those two extremes is what requires the consideration of both sides. What I'm trying to say is that if you want to get the most out of writing about yourself, writing about your ideal future, it probably isn't such a great idea to make something like winning the lottery or becoming a famous celebrity or anything in that kind of materialist realm a goal of yours. Answering these questions requires you to be a little full of yourself, but not too full. That's again why honesty is so important. And last, but definitely not least, really maybe most importantly, you should not judge the writing you do in the heat of the moment, which is to say when the writing is actually being done. I recommend setting a timer and doing a free write. So what that looks like is set a timer for 15 or 20 minutes, sit down and just word vomit all over the page or the document in front of you. Punctuation and grammatical precision are not important in the first draft. And that's really what I mean when I say, kind of go easy on yourself with the mistakes. Everything can be revised later, but you can't revise what you don't get down. So it's crucial that you allow yourself the opportunity and the freedom to create. And that, by its very nature, implies a willingness to make a few mistakes. And now I just want to reiterate again that I chose the questions that I'll be laying out for you because I want to help you help yourself. Whatever your abstracted long-term goal is right now that's floating around your head, wherever you see yourself, 5 years from now, if you're willing to dig in and do about 20 pages of writing over the course of these next 6 weeks, which really isn't much if you break it down, day by day, week by week, you can build exactly what it is that you want. You can give actual physical form to the ideas in your head. I want to do what I can to help build you up and put you in a better position to get to the place that you want to go. And this is how I think we can best do it. I'll add that to a certain extent, if this is going to really work for you, you'll have to just kind of drink the Kool-Aid at certain moments during the course. You'll have to buy into the subject matter and just trust that what I put in front of you, I do so with the goal of positively transforming your life. And I say this because I want to be, totally transparent. The lesson plan I've put together for the next 6 weeks can change your life or it can do nothing. It depends entirely upon how you approach it. If you trust that I'm not here to waste your time, that I actually want to help you grow, which, by this point, I hope that's the case. If you trust me and do the work, I think it will pay off. So yeah, just some final words. Each class, I'll give you a brief lecture discussing, that week's assigned reading as well as the writing assignment. We'll have some small group discussions about the reading and try then connecting it to our own lives, seeing, what we can take from it and apply to our own everyday lives, as well as the plan that you're constructing. And before we part ways, we'll cover the following week's reading and writing assignments. I know that's kind of a very brief overview, but just to give you some idea of what to expect in class. Okay, and with that, I want to say thank you for sticking with me. I want to thank my video editors, Bach and Joe. In my next video, I will give you a brief overview of Man's Search for Meaning to try and kind of contextualize the book before we dig into it. So thanks again, everyone. I can't tell you how excited I am to be teaching this course. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.